Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I had to give myself a little bit of a push today in getting outside. But once I was outside, I was so appreciative. I was so grateful. It was exactly what I needed, right? You stay inside, you feel like you need to be motivated. And, I got things done, but you just don't want to be doing for the sake of doing things. I wanted to accomplish for myself. And what I really felt I needed was a little bit of fresh air. And so I had a shower, I got dressed, and I just started walking. I didn't really have a destination, right? There were a couple of things that I needed to pick up, but I could have gone in any direction. And I just started walking, and it was so beautiful. I walked in a neighborhood today with the most beautiful, big, old houses. Unfortunately, a lot of these big, beautiful houses, when they were built for status, not out of need. Nobody needs properties that size, I think, to be honest. They're huge. And 100 years later, we find that these big old houses, they're all broken up into little apartments. And I found myself contemplating, as I move forward in my retirement, do I want to stay where I am? I'm not really particular about the roof over my head. There was a time when it was important, like a big picture window is important to me, but I have a big, beautiful picture window. And I always dreamed of having my own home, my own house, right? But in all reality, I'm quite comfortable here. The rent is reasonable. Most of the bills are included. The neighborhood I live in is central. The people in my building are really nice. But how nice would it be to live in a big old house with a big porch, with my own yard to piddle in? I don't even garden, right? It's our imagination and our daydreaming of what we actually need to make us happy. For the past, I don't know, past year or so, I've been really involved in looking at trailers and RVs, campers, looking at the idea of getting out on the road pretty close to full time if I can. Hello, Tammy. Pretty close to full time if I can. So it would kind of make sense that I would keep this apartment because it's so inexpensive that I can manage it financially and still enjoy my retirement and put money away for these things that I need them? Well, I have to look at what I'm doing online, and I have to look at it selfishly too. Being a highly sensitive, being empathic, I have a special connection, I think, with nature, with being outdoors. Like I said, when I went for a walk today, I just came alive. And was it an easy walk? No, it was a very long walk. And when I came home, I had a 10-pound bag of potatoes, and in my other hand, another had a other 10 pounds of odds and ends. And I had quite a long distance to walk home. So when I got home, I was pretty pooped, to tell you the truth, right? So sometimes we have to look at really what do we want and what do we need. Well, I have a special connection to Mother Nature. It energizes me, it calms my system. I have that connection. I feel, right, that nature and trees and grass and the wind and lakes and the breeze, it's its own species. I feel that way, to tell you the truth. That's how tight this connection is that I have in exploring the inside and the outside. Well, it would kind of make sense also that I would be interested at looking at RVs, and right, I'm getting older. I can't be laying on the ground forever like when I'm 80 years old. I'm going to try, but I can't expect that that's going to happen. So in looking out for my future, what do I want? What do I need? Right? And I don't need much, right? I have everything I need. And every once in a while, things get broken and you have to replace them. Little emergencies happen, and you have to be prepared for these things. But when you set goals and you set your dreams and you have your dreams, this is an important part of our lives, right? It's part of making us happy, making us feel that it's just not hairy scary out there, it's just not miserable and bad news. And kind of sad to hear what happened in Nepal today and what happened with Dolly Parton and Tim Curry, right? I loved that movie, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I remember as a teen, I'm going off down a side bridge. I remember as a teenager, they would have Friday night movie nights in the theater, and they would always have maybe a couple of weeks where they would play this movie, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and we would all dress up in costumes. I actually had a friend who looked exactly like Tim Curry, and he would dress up in the fishnet stockings and the skirts and the makeup and the hair. He looked exactly like him, and we would go to these movies, and you would bring your props, toast and confetti and lighters, and then you would, because the movie so well, you would jump in and say the phrases of the movies, right? And it was such a fun experience. And I don't give that moment much thought, but then when you hear that some of your favorite people, right? Some of your favorite actors, your favorite movie, it comes across your path and you give it a thought, you go, oh my goodness, time flies. Not only does time fly, but you think, did they fill their lives up, right? Did they get what they wanted? Did they get what they dreamed for? When they set their goals, did they achieve them? Did they have what they need? And for lots of people, what they need is just not the roof over their head, it's companionship, right? Lots of times it's somebody that will understand you, right? That will not betray you. Sometimes it's travel, right? Lots of people I know, they just hit the road and they're perfectly happy with that. And I think, coming from that nomadic family myself, that's part of my nature. But because I've had so much change, it's now not my nature, but it's my tendency to want to be rooted, meaning, right? Stay where you are. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? The least amount of change, the better. But taking into consideration what I do, right? I'm here on YouTube. I explore the inside and the outside. And in that outside, that's my connection to nature. And it's not about killing 10 birds with one stone, but it's recognizing what's important for me and how fabulous is it that it's something that I can bring to my audience. It's something that I can share, and being that example and that evidence for other people that they might find that connection themselves. Maybe they have that connection already, but because of circumstances, because of that 7 day a week job that they have, maybe it's illnesses, right? Disabilities, financial reasons. They're not, don't have, familiar, lots of kids, just busy, busy, that they don't have that opportunity to connect with Mother Nature, right? I don't have anybody. I have my sisters, but my sisters are living their own lives. And yes, I can join in on that, but I'm joining in their lives, right? They're not joining in my life. And because I'm a unique and because I want to live my own life, because it's something I haven't done a lot of, to be honest, up until maybe the past 20 years. I'm going to give it 20 years, right? When I first started going off camping and adventuring on my own, I have shared it on YouTube since 2014, and so I was already in it for a good half a dozen years at the very least. It was my first good, reliable vehicle that I got that I could trust, that wouldn't break down on the road, because I was the queen of beaters. That first good vehicle, and phew, I was gone. And it was the first time that I truly recognized that I have that nomadic trait about myself. But that nomadic trait that I have is that connection, right? That adventurous, curious mind that I have. And it's important for me to give myself, right? At the very least, put the effort in to give myself those things that I want in my life, right? Have to say, came into my mind just now, September's almost here, you guys, right? Every September for, oh my goodness, decades now, I have been going off on trips, right? Because, I was never that person that could afford to do lots of traveling. But in that bag at the end of the stick, that one goal, that one dream, that one small thing that I could achieve for myself, that was that trip in September that I would put together, and I would go to different provincial parks. It first started here in Manitoba, and now I love going to Ontario. Ontario is so beautiful. Their provincial parks are amazing. Their campgrounds are massive. They're like little mini provincial parks, each campsite on their own. That's how magnificent. And if at all possible, I am going to do every single one of their provincial parks. And I maybe have done 50 of them so far, between 30 and 50 of them. And they've got hundreds and hundreds of provincial parks. So it makes sense, in that goal setting, that even if I can't, you know, purchase that RV now, I can't reserve those camp spots in the moment because those resources are just not there, that I'm still, right, practicing my craft. I'm instilling those lessons and I'm trusting and I'm believing that, I don't always get what I want, but I get what I need, right? And so I look at these trailers and RVs as things that I need so that I can continue to expand and to change and bring new things to my life and bring new things to my platform, but staying within, exploring the inside and the outside. So even though that little bit of sadness is there because we're going into September, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go on this trip, and I'm being optimistic. I'm saying I'm not sure. I'm not saying I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, right? I believe things will come to me. It's my dream, it's my goals. And I believe those other parts of me love nature more than I do. I'm not going to say equal to me. I'm going to say more than I do, right? Because it's that connection is so special. There's something about it that brings me alive. And if there's a reason that I can't go on this trip in September, I'm going to accept that. And I'm not going to be all woisy me because I believe that things happen for a reason. And if it doesn't come into my life, right, something better will come into my life. And maybe it will be that RV or that trailer or that new vehicle. And it's just keeping my eye out, doing that research, and just trusting things are going to work out. Maybe not the way that I expect to. Maybe it'll be even better. But at the very least, I, moving forward, I'm going to get what I need in my life. I'm very grateful that, I've come to realize that because there was a time where, I wasn't even sure if the next day I was even going to have a roof over my head or if I was going to have my internet or be able to pay my phone bill, right? And yet, you know, in making sure that I'm okay, that I'm taking care of those needs, I'm being responsible for possibly the very first time in my entire life. And it's absolutely fantastic, fantastic. And it's a gift in itself. Very appreciative, very grateful. And we had this word, right? In gratefulness. And, I have to remember that life is amazing, right? And, I have every right to dream and set goals and to move towards them. But at the same time, I have to appreciate that I'm not going to get everything that I want, right? Because that wouldn't be a truth for everybody. Do you know what I mean? That I want to be the example and the evidence for people that you chase your dreams. Your dreams will manifest in a way for you. But, when you just say, I want this and I want this and I want this, and you don't separate what you need and what you want, right? And that's the idea that at the very least, we're all going to have the basics of our needs met. And if we can trust in that, that can take so much worry and stress off of us. I know it has for myself. I tell you, I have not worked literally, have not had a paycheck in a year. I'm living off a little teeny weeny pension till my big pension comes in a few months. And I had no idea how that was going to happen. But I just trusted that everything was going to be okay. And I still feel that way, right? We still feel the hairy scary. We still, in the back of our minds, we think, oh, right? But you just have to trudge through and you have to fill your days up with things that you know you need, not necessarily what you wanted. I didn't particularly want to go for a walk today. Well, at least I didn't think I wanted to go for a walk. Once I was out that door, I was all about it. I just knew that I had to get outside and get some fresh air and go for a walk, right? Sometimes we get punch drunk with life. Sometimes it's in what's presented to us, what comes across our path in the relationships that we have, sometimes with people that we've attached ourselves with, you know, in that reflection of Dolly Parton and Tim Curry, passing away. And for myself, I look at her biographies and, she's always been a favorite of mine. But it was that connection and, that she had and that understanding that she had with people who didn't have anything. That she was the prime example of dreams can come true, because when you talk about somebody who had nothing, like nothing, she was that person, right? She was that person. And she remembered that her entire life. And she was a philanthropist, my dream job, right? She was a philanthropist. And she gave so much to so many different causes. She touched so many different lives. And, I was reading some of the things that people were saying about her, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if I could just even have a fraction of how people felt about her, the impact that she made in her own life, genuinely, that she always portrayed herself as somebody who was genuine, that she understood. But we knew she understood that that wasn't airs, that wasn't something that she was putting on a mask, because that was her biography, that was her life. She knew the everyday person. She knew your life and my life and your struggles and my struggles and your wants and dreams and my wants and dreams, right? She can't spread herself around that each one of us, right? She's not an Elon Musk that in his will he could leave everybody $1 billion and there still would be billions and billions to pass down as inheritance to his family, right? But she touched lives in ways that we'll never know, because she was that person. We know that private side of her life, don't we? Right? How much do we know about her relationship with her husband? It was a very private relationship, and she kept it out of the limelight. I think that's pretty beautiful in that, right? And only up until this morning, I didn't know that as a philanthropist, she gave money to produce children's books in mindset, in stories that would promote values in the next generation. And oh my goodness, and you and I both know how much this world needs that, right? More people like that. And we're moving towards that, right? But people, right, have to remember that it's just not a grind. We're just not working for the man. We are creating something beautiful for ourselves and as a legacy to pass down to others, right? I think it's a beautiful thing. And this might be my only legacy. And what I was going to say, that's my responsibility to do the very best at it as I can, right? In that movement, in taking care of myself so I can continue to do it, right? And Tammy to take care of herself and make sure that she's smiling and she's getting a little bit of what she wants along with a little bit of what she needs, right? Knowing that the things that she doesn't want and doesn't need, they're going to come into her life, right? And lots of times not in a good way. So it's important for us to find those moments, to find those gifts that can make us smile, that can calm our systems down, that can contribute to our legacies, right, Tammy? Right? Just like you were saying that you helped that lady with her her well, I'm not going to say it was epilepsy, right? Because it might have been something else, but she did have a seizure. And in the moment, you don't know what that seizure's caused by, and you just jumped in, and you could have been saving her life in that moment. And if you had saved her life, that was a legacy, right? You're saving her so that she could be an influence on her children and grandchildren so that she could be a legacy moving down the road, right? And we don't look at life this way, right? We look at what we don't have, woe see me, right? But it's always in our choices, right? It's always in our choices. Yeah, it always is. So I'm glad I went for my walk today. It did so much for my system, right? Put my sunglasses on, walk slow, enjoy the breeze and the trees and the flowers and people, and yeah, it was just really, really quite beautiful. And I got a 10-pound bag of potatoes for $1.99. That was what I was hauling home for $1.99. I couldn't say no. I had a long walk home, but I wasn't leaving that grocery store without my 10-pound bag of potatoes. I was all happy with that. $1.99. Oh my goodness. It's fall, right? You get some good deals in the fall. Like right now, we can get corn on the cob for like four for $1, right? And in the wintertime, you buy four cobs and you're paying $7 or $8 for them, right? So you gotta appreciate the deals as they come along, right? You do. Okay, you guys. I'm not really holding on to my little promise to myself to get into the card at the beginning of every one of my lives. But you know what? It's that flow. It's my connection with my audience. And I promise, at the very least, I'm not going to rush through the word, that I'm going to give it more than 2 minutes. And I'm going to trust that those other parts of me are going to pull a card that will make it relevant in the conversation that we're having right now. Let me just come into the comments just for a moment here. I was really sad to hear about Dolly Parton passing away. Since 1975, I listened to and loved listening to Dolly Parton sing. I just loved her music and her voice, and I loved the good causes she had and did. Yeah, right? And we're going to hear about more of these philanthropies that she involved herself in, as we move forward. People are going to want to really hear about all the good things that she did, right? And, she got Dolly World. There's a legacy just in itself, right? And those books, how many children are going to be influenced and grow up to have values and feel good about themselves and chase down their dreams and understand their emotions. And she didn't write those books herself. She just financed them. And I never heard anything about those books personally, right? So she wasn't tooting her own horn about them or anything, right? So lots of these people out there, you know, we don't look at them. We look at their mansions and their fancy cars and their fancy clothes, and we don't appreciate all the fancy things that they do for others, right? But yeah, 1975. Yeah, I think it was probably around the same time for me, Tammy, right? I remember she had a hit tune on, and I was 12 years old, and I was waitressing, and I remember every time I go into the kitchen, my aunt was in the kitchen and she was cooking and stuff, and she'd have the radio on, and every time this song came on, I would be singing along with it and everything, right? And I used to go to all her movies. I thought she was a great actress at the same time. Yeah, she suited very well to comedy, right? I love how Dolly Parton was so down to earth and genuine and real, and she never acted like she was better than others. You're right, Tammy, in that, right? Because she was that person and she remembered that. She always kept it in the forefront of her mind. It was how she related to people, to the everyday person. That was because she understood the struggles of the everyday man. Yeah, that's for sure. That's great that you both get out and enjoy Mother Nature and being able to walk and enjoy the big outdoors. Yeah, I do love it. And I am applying soon as that pension kicks in. Going to spend a couple of months getting on top of the bills, right? Putting on a nice Christmas do with my family, right? To make up for the weaknesses in the past couple of years. And then I'm just going to town. I'm going to take care of my health, which I've been doing as of late, and I'm just working hard at just doing a little bit better for myself. I am not perfect, right? And I know where I came from. And that's the idea. Our purpose comes from our pain. And Dolly Parton did a beautiful job in that, right? What a legacy she left behind. That's amazing, right? We could all wish for that. And that would probably be more than what we need. But if we're lucky, it's exactly what we want to, right? Okay, you guys, let's get into our powerful word tonight. I hope everybody's week is going absolutely amazing. Let's grab a card. Oh, this one's sticking out. Let's grab that one. Ha ha ha. Enthusiasm is a result of doing what you love, right? That's where my energy comes from. I needed to get outside today. I really needed to get outside today and get some fresh air. I had a shower. I got dressed, kind of dragged my butt a little bit, washed the dishes, cleaned the bathroom, did a couple of loads of laundry, and then I just said, get out of the house, right? And soon as I walked out of the house, it was just, it was just like everything just kind of released out of my system. And I didn't even know what direction I was going to walk in. And I just started walking, and I just came alive in it, right? And it's only in that reminder that when I'm not feeling good, what's going to make me feel good? It's being outside, right? And that's the truth. I just love being outside. And when I don't see the possibilities, right? I have to remind myself, right? You know what? You're looking at the brighter side of the fence, Cindy, right? Don't look at what how you're going to do it or when it's going to happen. Just trust that it will, right? Get outside for the moment. You're too much in your head. And you know what? It was everything. And I came back in today with just a totally different attitude, right? Looking at the possibilities, not stressing about how anything's going to get done, just recognizing that I'm going to have what I need. And that's what's most important, right? It's up to me to find the joy in what I love. And I know those things that make me smile, that make me feel good. That's why I was trying with the laundry, accomplishing, right? But sometimes it's in that release and being outdoors, being outside, it forces me. It's just instant. I just release, right? So I'm going to trust that that feeling is going to continue to come into my life. How? Right? But if I make that movement, if I carry on with my dreams and my goals in pursuing what I want and what I need, right? Without forgetting those things that make me smile, that I know builds me up in that enthusiasm and in that energy, right? In that release of the heavy, right? In the reflection of, oh my goodness, right? We're all getting old, right? And we look back sometimes and we think about the missed opportunities, the things that we would have done over again. And that's when you know, right? Ugh, it's time to go off and do what you love, right? And it doesn't mean that, lots of times, oh, I love to go on my trips to Hawaii. Well, maybe you can't afford to go to Hawaii in the moment, but can you go to the grocery store and buy yourself a can of pineapple bits and make yourself a nice little Chinese food dinner tonight? I always like to put the pineapple in my fried rice and in my sweet and sour sauce, right? Sometimes it's just getting outside and putting on your sunglasses, sitting on a bench and enjoying the sun and the breeze, right? But just finding ways to get close to the things that you love. It's really, really important for our emotional and mental and physical well being. It is. And sometimes we have to be creative in how we get that job done. But for me, it was nothing. All it cost me was $1.99 for a 10-pound bag of potatoes. And right? And I get the enjoyment of having my hash browns in the morning and thinking, oh, I only paid $1.99 for this bag of potatoes that are going to last me 2 or 3 weeks, right? And that makes me happy too because it's that sense of accomplishment, right? That was heavy dragging that bag of potatoes all the way home in my walk, right? It was. But you know what? The joy came back to me, the lightness came back to me, and that enthusiasm, right? Because I was doing what I love, right? It wasn't what I wanted, right? But it was exactly what I needed in the moment. And it's feeling and knowing, what do we love? What do we love? And if you can't do exactly what you love, how close to it can you get? How creative can you get? Right? Can you blow up a plastic palm tree in your living room and put on a bathing suit and dance around? I don't know what it takes for you, right? Have yourself a little party, pina colada, right? It's just a matter of giving yourself what you want. Now you can't do that all the time because then it can become a coping mechanism, especially when there's a lot of stress and worry and woisy me going on, that you've gotten yourself in such a state because you haven't been doing what you love. You've been dwelling in that hairy scary, right? But you can find ways to get close to it. And it's your responsibility to bring those smiles into your life. And you have to remember, when you allow yourself to go down, there are people around you who are going to see that and feel that in every moment, in every word, and in every action that they see and interact with you in. And so, it's important to be able to bring a smile to your face because that gives somebody else permission to smile too, right? Okay, you guys. Um, that was a very good deal with the big bag of potatoes there, Cindy. Yeah, I wasn't leaving it behind. I dragged it home. I was determined. And then at home, I got home, I put them away and oh, Sydney, what a great score that was. But if you had asked me as I was dragging them home and had to take a few stops because I had two big bags and I was just like, but it gives you a moment to appreciate the breeze and the trees. And here it is, you guys. Motivation force, right? It's that idea of just getting into action, just doing what you love, right? And things are going to be going haywire. All we live in a world where every disaster that goes on is in the news like few minutes later, and we can let ourselves get absorbed in that. And of course we want to know when our favorite people have passed away because we want to send that good cheer out to them. We do. But we have to recognize our own emotional, mental well being in that. And that sometimes means that when we're sad about something, or that something reminds us of the past where we might have been sad, we might have been in hairy scary, we might have regret, that we have something that we can delve into. And that is goals and dreams and that sense of accomplishment and moving forward. Yeah. Doing what you love. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.